Efforts should be made to reclaim our heritage, even if it means renaming some streets and locations in St. Kitts and Nevis. That's the view of local Pan-Africanist Greg Herbert. Mr. Herbert, speaking to SKN Newsline, suggested that some streets and areas named after colonialists or persons who benefited from the slave trade should be renamed and replaced with names of noted local and African figures.
We need to start a process of decolonizing this space. Some of these place names, the street names and whatnot, should be named after people that are significant to our country. For instance, something like Port Zante, or main port of entry for tourism and all sorts of other things, is named after a place in Greece that has no significance to St. Kitts or Nevis. In my opinion, that should have never been named, and it can still be renamed. So I want to encourage the government to rename that. I suggest Port Tegraman. You have a situation where you have the Berkeley Memorial. Now, if you want to rename it, it's fine. It's become a landmark, and I think it's ironic and somehow fitting that the descendants of the people that these people enslaved are now using these people's creations to benefit from for themselves. So it's ironic. In terms of removing monuments, I don't have an issue with it. For instance, you have a monument at Baker's Corner, the Queen Victoria statue. I don't know if you call it a statue, but in the roundabout, it's in bad shape now. But in my opinion, something else should be placed there. It is time for us to make up our minds to put our stories on display.
Social and racial injustice protests in the US and the UK last year were marked by protesters violently removing monuments dedicated to the memory of persons deemed racists or whom would have benefited from the transatlantic slave trade. Meanwhile, Mr. Herbert is calling for a more consistent and measured approach to preserving African cultural heritage, and not only on holidays.
Removing monuments is one thing, but we need to also build our own in place or in new areas. That is my opinion. The Black Lives Matter movement and whatnot, and people here when solidarity, those things are trendy at the time, It's trendy at the time because you want to jump on somebody else's situation, even though as a Pan-Africanist, all black people issues are my issues. But we have real work to do here. It don't just stop when the protests in the state stop. This is a constant state of the colonization of our minds and our spaces.
Andre Huey, SKN Newsline.